Hey everybody, Aaron Cowan, Sage Dynamics, and this is my review of the FN Dmr Ii. I don't shoot long range as much as I used to, or as much as I'd like, but when I do, I generally prefer to shoot the 223-556 over 308. Don't get me wrong, 308's a great round. I also have 6.5 Creedmoor, but for budgetary concerns and just for, I guess, kind of the challenge of being precise at extreme distances with the 5.56 223 over some rounds that are expected to perform at greater distances, I've always kind of just gravitated towards 5.56 223. It's also been one of my preferred calibers for DMR type rifles. They tend to be lighter, more modular, and you can get away with having a shorter gun and still get the ballistic performance that you're going to need for urban, domestic, DMR purposes for law enforcement use, or if you're going to use the gun for a varmint rifle or just for personal protection or personal performance on the 5.56 223 cartridge. It's nice to know that there are accurate AR-15 platform 223-556s out there. So when FN updated their DMR to the Dmr II, I wanted to get my hands in on it and check it out. If you're familiar with my review process, you know I do 2,000 rounds. This is going to be no different with the FN Dmr II. However, there is a departure from my normal, I guess, procedure in the fact that this gun will not go through the 500 round burn down. Any precision gun that I review or anything precision purposes is not going to get that 500 round accelerated rate of fire, because the gun is probably never going to be in a condition where it's got to perform to even a quarter of that in a sustained, very short period of time. Instead, I'm going to do a 2,000 round extended review, shooting very high quality ammo with just precision performance in mind. That doesn't mean the gun's not going to get hot, it doesn't mean it's not going to get run hard, but I think we can all agree that it probably wouldn't get run to the same degree that you'd expect from a general purpose rifle, a patrol rifle, or something more military focused like a battle rifle. Now, getting right into the features of the FN Dmr II. With an M-lock, wedge lock style rail, which I'm a big fan of. You see them on Hodge rifles. I like the way they interface. I like the design. I like the advantages you get from it, especially if you're trying to go for, obviously with a DMR gun, a free float style rail. Weighing it at 7 pounds before you start putting accessories on it. For an 18-inch gun, that's not a bad weight to be at. Cold hammer forged barrel. FN is very well known for their barrel. So getting in the review, I wanted to see if this gun is going to be able to live up to not necessarily the height, but the lineage of the FN cold hammer forged barrel to provide that excellent accuracy I come to expect from FN products. Now, the Dmr II is a rifle length gas system, which generally means it's going to be a softer shooting gun, and it's going to lend itself a little better towards more precise shooting than what you'd get, especially for follow-up shots, than what you'd get from a mid-length or obviously carbine or even shorter gas length system. The 1-in-7 barrel is going to lend itself very well to a wider degree of your heavier rounds that are generally preferred for long-range shooting. For the review process, I fired 2,000 rounds of Black Hills 77 grain OTM. A little bit pricey, but definitely worth it. It's one of my favorite long-range precision rounds, and it's also the round that I check all gun accuracy on, regardless of whatever the gun's purpose is. So even if I was doing a review on something that would be more of a general purpose rifle, I'm going to zero it and I'm going to do my accuracy checks on that 77 grain round. The Dmr II comes with Magpul furniture, which I didn't change. Same stock, same grip. It came with a Surefire Pro Comp muzzle device. I did change that out for the review process. I replaced it with a War Comp because I intended to shoot the rifle suppressed. For glass, I went with a new Leupold Mark V HD, which is a 3:18 optic with the Trimmer 3 reticle. I felt like that's going to give me the glass and the performance I can be able to stretch the legs of the Dmr II out to as far as I can get it with the ranges that I have access to. That's something that I was definitely looking forward to doing. I didn't want to just shoot the rifle at 100 yards, so I was able to stretch the ledge much further than that, or a little further than that, depending on how you look at it, during the review process. For general function and reliability, the Dmr II performed flawlessly throughout the review process. The gun wasn't getting really hot, but during the 2,000 rounds, I didn't spend a whole lot of undue time providing additional lubrication, and I didn't punch the bore out once. I wanted to see if it was going to be able to maintain its accuracy throughout the review process, and it definitely did. There towards the end of the 2,000 rounds, I was still able to get close to the accuracy that I started with. And what was that? Well, showing you right now, after zeroing confirmation, let the gun cool, here's a 5-round group at 100 yards shooting the 77 grain Black Hills OTM. It's a 1 MOA gun, which that's the bare minimum I would expect from a gun that's going to carry the designated marksman rifle title in marketing and purpose of design. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more sub-MOA out of it, but it's going to be consistent. It was consistent throughout the review process, maintaining that 1 MOA standard. Now, of course, 1 MOA at 100 yards is 1 MOA, but is it going to be able to maintain the same degree of accuracy as we stretch the legs? So this review, I was kind of limited on time frame when it actually came down to being able to shoot it out at a greater distance than that, but I was able to get it up to 200 yards on paper. So here is your 200-yard group, seeing if it's going to maintain that 1 MOA standard. At 200 yards, it shot 1 3/4 of an inch group consistently. I definitely checked that to make sure it was repeatable, showing you that group. It was just under 2 inches at 200 yards, which confirms it is a sub-MOA rifle. Just barely, or sub-MOA, depending on what your definition is. Some people want their groups to be a little bit more tight than that. At 200 yards, you're not going to get a whole lot of bullets touching each other when you're coming out of a semi-automatic gas-operated platform, even with the free float barrel, even with the barrel length. It was great. Now, that was all unsuppressed. Am I going to be able to get any additional accuracy out of the gun suppressed? This is a little bit subjective, but because I was already working on a different suppressor review, and I was nearing the tail end of the process shooting the Dmr Ii, I went ahead and threw RMS2's Hopi direct thread suppressor on the Dmr Ii to see how it grouped suppressed. That was a 5-round group at 100 yards, sub-MOA. In fact, it actually tightened it up a little bit over the unsuppressed group, which I would expect a little bit of increased accuracy from a direct thread can versus unsuppressed. Usually direct thread cans tend to add a little bit of accuracy generally to the gun, and change the characteristics of performance, the harmonics, the bullet performance. There's a lot of science that goes into that. So overall, as far as accuracy goes, I've been very, very happy with the Dmr Ii. Now, what about the other features? Well, it's an AR-10 rifle, or sorry, an AR-15 rifle. So there isn't a lot of magic that goes into the design. It's not departing from anything that's tried and true. FN is definitely a very conservative company when it comes to modernizing and updating their rifles. It's not a bad thing. It just means they want to make sure that they're putting out stuff that is proven to work without putting out experimental rifles, especially to end users who are going to use them for line of duty purposes, be it military or law enforcement. Of course, self-defense definitely falls on that for your average everyday purchaser, but the Dmr Ii is more marketed, more geared towards your law enforcement, your military market. They include the Timney trigger, which in the past I've had bad luck with Timney triggers. I've had reset issues and light strikes and other issues. Because I was only using one type of ammunition throughout the review process, I can't say it's going to bang away on every single round you put in it, especially if you do hand loads or something like that. But based on the indentation on the casings, I'd say that you're probably not going to have any problems with this. Hammer's falling hard, but it's not falling too hard to disturb the overall performance of the gun. It's not a heavy trigger. It feels clean and consistent throughout the pull process, so I don't feel like there's a gritty wall or any kind of dead space in the procedure of pull to break, and then it's got a very, very positive reset if that's something that you're into. So I was actually really impressed with the Timney trigger. I think it was a good choice for this rifle. I think it complements it very well, and over the 2,000 round process from first round to last round, the trigger gave me the same consistent performance, cold or hot, which is what I'd want from a trigger that's going into a precision rifle. During the 2,000 round review process, I shot the Dmr Ii in heat, in cold, in rain, in extreme moisture. I shot it unsuppressed, I shot it suppressed with a Surefire SOCOM 2, I shot it suppressed with the RMS2 Hopi, and I shot it to a high volume of fire. It was consistent. It maintained a greater degree of accuracy than what I've seen from some other so-called DMR rifles that are out there. And of course, because it's coming from FN, I really wouldn't expect anything different as far as the performance is concerned. It's giving me exactly what I expect from a lineage and a manufacturer such as FN, and they make almost all their stuff in-house. So their quality control is definitely there, and it's definitely evident in this rifle's performance. It didn't nothing really came up in the review process that made me think, okay, it's not going to do this well because of these conditions under these circumstances. Whatever I put it through, whatever conditions I shot it in, it did exactly what I wanted it to do. As far as negatives go, I really only have one, and this is just personal preference. I like to shoot off hog saddles. I don't like to go prone unless I have to, and I like to shoot from standing positions because sometimes the environment doesn't allow you to go prone based on tall grass, snow, the conditions of the ground, or because you need to see over something. And if I'm thinking about a rifle that's for a designated marksman purpose, law enforcement, military, the end user in mind, being able to elevate the gun is something that's probably going to be on the checklist of things a rifle should be able to do, and it's got to work with the equipment that you're using. Now, there are some direct to M-lock saddle type options out there to shoot off of tripods, and you could definitely use that. But I noticed with my hog saddle, I had to shim the rail a little bit in order to get to the lock into the hog saddle so I could go hands off without the gun just falling out of the saddle, which is something I don't want. So it would be nice to see right there, back there by the barrel nut for a little added thickness in the event that someone's going to saddle it up in a hog saddle or a similar system. But again, that's subjective. Other than that, I don't really have any complaints that I can speak of. The finish is good, the trigger is good, the parts, your castle nut is properly staked, your gas keys properly staked, the gas system was clean. It ran on 2 different suppressors as well as unsuppressed flawlessly. I don't remember a single time where I actually had a non-ammunition related malfunction. I did have 2 rounds where the primers backed out, and at first I thought it was gun related, but once I took the gun apart to actually diagnose the source of the issue, I found 2 backed out primers, which is kind of uncommon for Black Hills, but it's something that can occur on any ammunition regardless of the quality of it, and that's in 2,000 rounds. So even if that was the gun that's ultimately the cause of that, 2 malfunctions out of 2,000 rounds isn't bad at all, and I in no way think that it was actually the firearm that caused that malfunction. I think it was ammunition related. I think I can definitively say that that was an ammunition related problem. As far as accuracy goes, like you already saw, the gun shoots 1 MOA, sub 1 MOA, and that's what you'd want from a DMR type rifle. So if you're looking for something in 5.56 or 2.23 that's reasonably priced, but it's going to give you consistent performance, it's just going to be able to maintain that performance for a long period of time in between cleanings, the Dmr Ii is definitely a gun that you should be looking at. If you're FN specific and you were thinking about, you kind of on the fence about whether you wanted to get one of their more precision or their precision focused 5.56, 2.23 rifles, the Dmr Ii is an excellent choice. I'm Eric Callis, Sage Dynamics. Train accordingly.